How are we doing, YouTube? It's your friendly gamer SmartEntity here. Now, since I've uploaded my how to run Warframe missions efficiently video, I've had quite a lot of people messaging me in-game, and a couple guys messaging me on YouTube asking me about, specific mission types, and I've also had a lot of people asking me about farming. So today I'm going to give you guys a very detailed guide on farming. So I'll be talking about credits, each resource, as well as best way to farm for platinum. Now, first of all, I'll talk about credits. Now, a lot of people, the mid-level players or the pro players may say, credit is something that you don't actually need to farm in this game because just by running missions, you get more than enough credits. I can tell you from experience that is not true for my type of gameplay. So as you can see here, I farmed over 62 million credits, and right now I'm just left with over 11 million. Now, I can guarantee you I have never wasted any credit messing around or anything like that. The vast majority of my credit actually went into trading tax. So for those that don't know, I would consider myself to be quite an expert on trading. I've made over 23,500 platinum on trading alone. So credit is definitely something useful. And right now, the best place to farm for credit is the Dark Sector Defense on Pluto. So this map, Satura. Now, before I carry on, I just want to say I'm definitely not part of any Solar Rail alliance right now, so I'm not advocating or demoting any particular alliance. But this particular alliance, the Space Federation, they've occupied this Solar Rail for quite a long time now. I probably played this mission over a couple hundred times in the past couple weeks. So basically, per run, which takes me less than 5 minutes, usually average about 3.5 to 4 minutes, I can get over 20 to 23,000 credit per run. And depending on what frame you have, what squad you have, that may be a bit longer, a bit shorter, but generally, even if you take about 5 to 6 minutes per run and you get 20 to 23,000, which is almost the same as a T3 mission, that's pretty good. So for you new players out there, I definitely recommend trying to get a taxi, to this particular map. I mean, if you do one run, that's almost enough money for you to buy a Brayton, a direct upgrade from your MK1s. And if you're a pro player, you definitely want to play this mission a lot to either get your credit for platinum tax, or credit just to basically forge your sort of last few weapons. Next, I'll talk about each individual resource. So, before I carry on, I just want to quickly mention with your research resources, so your Detonite Ampule, Futuron sample, Mutagen sample, unless you're actually needing those for clan research, don't bother farming for them, don't bother, making the actual product in the forge, or in the foundry, I should say. Just do invasion missions, for Detonite and Futuron, just do those Corpus / Guinea invasion missions. You get 3 per 5 run, and for Mutagen sample, you get 1 per 3 infestation run. It's just much more efficient than having to farm for the individual products and having to craft them. Okay, next we'll talk about rare resources. Now, Argon crystals is something new. A lot of people have been looking for it. I've actually never had to purposely farm them. All I had to do was just run a few void missions, and they just pretty much come my way. And for those that do actually need some desperately, do your T3 survival, T3 defense missions. You should get more than what you need in a 5 to 10 minute run. And don't forget, they do decay over time, so there's definitely no point having a bank of them. So next, we will talk about the other rare resources. Control modules, anyone that runs a decent amount of voids will never bother farming for control modules because they drop literally like, almost, I should say, literally like nanospores. Gallium. Now, I've run a lot of void in my time, so I have more than enough gallium than what I need from running T3 survival defense, but now the resources have changed. These no longer drop in the void, so if you do need them, I definitely recommend running a Mars survival. Now, as always, Dark Sector survival is quite ideal, but do keep in mind of the tribute. When the resource tribute is 0, it's a pretty good idea to run a Dark Sector. if for nothing else, just by the fact that infested units are usually easier to kill, easier to play around with than Corpus or Guinea. But if the tax is unreasonably high, or if this is on conflict, I definitely recommend running IRA. And same with Morphics. So if you are wanting a lot of Morphics and you're quite low level, running either of these missions are fine. But in the past few weeks, I've gotten a lot of Morphics from Satura, so I've been farming a lot of credits, and with each 5-minute also run, I can get 1 or 2 Morphics, depending on if I have a Nekros in the team or not. And then we'll talk about neurosensors. So from my experience, neurosensors is probably one of the few resources where you don't want to run survival missions on. If you run the LSV Assassinate mission on Jupiter, you can get 1 or 2 per kill. On average, I would say you probably get about 1 per run. There are times where you get something stupid like salvage or feeder on sample, but LSV is probably the most easy way to get neurosensors. Just one thing I want to quickly mention about these about these assassinate missions: do not run it like exterminate. Put on your rhino, put on whatever you want to put your sort of tank on, put iron skin on, run from A to B, B being LSV, kill LSV, run from B to C, C being extraction. It literally takes you about 2 to 3 minutes per run. You can easily get 10, or even 20 if you're lucky, neurosensors in half an hour. So with all assassination missions, I definitely recommend run from A to B to C. Don't bother, killing your minor enemies. Don't bother opening your crates. By the time you've killed all your minor enemies and your crates, you probably would have finished the mission twice already. Next, Neurods and Orkan cells. Again, these 2 resources don't run survival missions. Run the Orkan derelict assassination mission. Basically, again, don't bother with your minor enemies or crates, run to the boss, and because there are 4 drop chances, you can get up to 4 Neurod/Orkan cells per run. And with regard to your uncommon resources, alloy plate and ribdo, I definitely recommend getting them from the void. The main reason is, with void missions, T3 defense, T3 survival, any T3 for that matter, you get a lot of credits, you get a possible prime item, and these resources are sort of, on the fly kind of thing. With regard to plastids, now for a while I've been recommending to use Saturn Mimus. Just because it's pretty much a low level survival, and then obviously there's a dark sector survival they can do. But having said all of that, again, you gotta look at resource tribute, credit tribute. Sometimes if it's high, it's just not worth doing dark sector, do Vimus. But if you are actually high level enough and have access to Satura, just do Satura, right? You get credit, you get Morphic, you get Plastid, and hey, you get Ribdo and Alloy Plates, right? So Plastid, either Satura, or if you don't want credits and you just want pure Plastid, either the Saturn Dark Sector Survival or Mimus. And with circuits, now before Dark Sector came along, I've been playing a lot on Venus Survival. So that's your E-Gate, and then there's of course Dark Sector on Venus as well. So these are probably your best places to get circuits. So I mean, for those of you that are quite new to the game, you've probably seen a trend, right? So generally survival are good at getting all your sort of resources kind of thing. Otherwise boss fights are decent for getting your rare resources. Ferret, for those that really need it, because some of the sort of foundry craftings do need a lot. Definitely do your earth survival for ferret. And then for nanospores, I mean, if you are low on nanospores, I'm sorry, you're not playing the game right. There is something that you need to do, unless you don't have something like, I think the first map to open would be Saturn. Yeah, so unless you don't have Saturn open and you're only up to Earth, fair enough. if you are, having 50 to 100 hour gameplay and you're running out of nanospores, something's wrong, buddy. You need to change. But seriously, nanospores, they drop everywhere. You don't need to farm for them. You never should farm for them. They are more common than oxygen. Polymer bundles, again, probably Venus, E-gate, so you can pretty much get your sort of circuit and polymer bundles. Despite polymer bundle being a common resource, I have had occasions where I've been running out, so run a couple Venus, either Dark Sector Survival or E-gate Survival. And with salvage, I actually got the majority of my salvage from Mars, just because I was farming for Morphix for a while before Dark Sector came, so I actually have more than enough salvage now. But pretty much, again, any sort of survival would be fine for salvage. Okay, so next, let's talk about formas. Now, there's two complete different things. One is forma blueprint, one is the actual forma item. Forma blueprints drop everywhere. They, to me, are the same as 2,500 credits. I've sold over 70 forma blueprints. They literally drop left and right in your sort of T2, T3 missions. You can usually get 2 to 3 blueprints per T2 run. Only issue with them is, it takes 24 hours to craft. Right, so you can only use 1 per day, and over time, if you play the game, a couple hours a day, you have more forma blueprints than you ever need. And then there's the actual forma. Now, formas are extremely rare to get. They drop from T3 Survival and T3 Exterminate. From my experience, T3 Exterminate drops them slightly higher percentage-wise. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that is the case, and from one person's experience it's definitely not representative, but I have run, I would say since, I think 12th of May was when they changed the drop tables, or they updated it on the forum. I've run well over 50 T3 Exterminate, well over 50 T3 Survival, on average about 40-minute runs. And I've literally gotten 0 forma item from T3 Survival, and I've gotten, I think, about 3 to 4, or I think 3, we'll say 3, actual forma item from T3 Exterminate. And the other thing is, I don't actually know at what time they drop in T3 Survival, but with Exterminate, if you got a half-decent squad, you can pretty much finish it in about 6 to 7 minutes. So T3 Exterminate are definitely the way to go to farm your formas. Okay, unfortunately, currently I can only run 15 minutes on a YouTube video, so please jump into part 2 where I will start to immediately talk about how to best farm for platinum.